And we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to another high vibe conversation. I'm your host, Shal Shapiro. With me today, we have Linda Vetrus Nichols and our special guest, Morag Barrett. Today, we'll be talking about navigating social drama. If the other ladies make it today, we will hold space for them to come join us as well. Before we get started with today's conversation, I want to remind you that this is a safe space. We invite you to share with us as we talk through our life lessons and hold space for you to work through yours. So, what this means is that if at any point you are resonating with what we're talking about, you want to add your own insights or personal experiences, please feel free to share that with us in the chat. If you feel like you want to join us individually for a high vibe conversation of your own, you can use the link on your screen to book a one-to-one call with one of the high vibe women. I will pop this up again towards the end of the conversation so that you don't have to go searching for it. If you are new here or you just want to catch up on the previous conversations, you can go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel seen here as well. And if there's a conversation that we have not had yet on High Vibe Conversations that you would like us to discuss and add to our list, then please feel free to connect with us and let us know what topic you want to cover. That being said, let's get to it. Morag, we are so excited to have you here with us today. Why don't you introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are?
Well, thank you. I'm really looking forward to this. Well, my name's Morag Barrett. You can read it at the bottom of the window here. And let's see, I am the mother of 3 6-foot-tall boys, just so you know where I am in that life cycle. They are all out of the house, so I am officially an empty nester as of a few weeks ago. I am a ballroom dancer and musician. So there you go, that's all the fun side. But the even funner side of my background is I am passionate about the secret to success and business in life. And for me, in my experience, the secret to success in business and life is the quality and health of our relationships, especially our professional relationships, which is what brings us to this conversation around social drama, because you don't get social drama without a relationship that is perhaps going slightly off the rails. So I look forward to our conversation. And on that theme, I've written 2 books, You, Me, We, Why We All Need a Friend at Work and How to Show Up as One, and Cultivate the Power of Winning Relationships, that provide an extra deep dive on the research that my team and I, my friends at work and I, have done around this very important topic.
Wow. Wow. Your books are amazing. So thank you for bringing them to light and sharing them with the world. I feel like I need to celebrate all of your amazing accomplishments right now. And this seems like a good opportunity to drop some confetti, right? Because you're a two-time author, a ballroom dancer. What was the other thing you said you did in your social life, in your personal life?
Oh, I'm a
Ballroom
classical
dancing?
musician, so I think that is almost a humble brag on the basis that my bassoon has not seen the light of day since before the pandemic. So I know I can remember the fingering for it. What I can't guarantee is that I've got the facial stamina to do that, but I would get back into it and intend to get back into it at some point in my
Yeah.
future
I
life.
mean, those are both things that take a lot of practice to become proficient in them. And I feel like it's kind of like riding a bicycle a little bit. Like we always remember even if we don't do it all the time, but like once you get back into it, I feel like you could just
Mm-hmm.
pick it right back up kind of thing. Um, eh, I'm gonna lean into that a little bit more when it comes to navigating social drama too. Like if we don't have the tools and practice ways to navigate certain situations, right? Then that's where some of the social drama can come out because we're not equipped to build better teams, to be allies to everybody else around us, or to at least one other person around us. And so, how do we go about navigating the social drama that we might surround ourselves with?
Such a powerful and great question, because I think you've nailed it in that often we learn how to navigate social drama through the school of hard knocks. because there isn't a module in high school or a university or even in your onboarding at your new company that says navigating social drama in this organization. We kind of sweep it under the carpet. And I remember early in my career, I started in finance back in England, 15 years, where I was told it's not personal, it's just business. Well, I call BS on that, because all business is personal. It doesn't matter whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're part of a global conglomerate with hundreds of thousands of employees. It doesn't matter if you are a rocket scientist like my middle son, or you are working a line, a retail job, and interacting. Everything requires our ability to play nice with other humans and to navigate the inevitable missteps and misunderstandings that come. But if we can do it without our hair going on fire, without the drama, but in a way that increases our understanding and with empathy and compassion, then that's a win-win for everybody.
I love what you said about like the empathy, bringing empathy to the table, and I'm trying to remember the words that you used about. Oh my God, I lost the words. You were talking about the School of Hard Knocks, and
Yeah.
you said that that we're not often like taught. We're kind of just like told like this. It's not personal. It's not personal.
Yeah,
It's just business. See, I
look
recalled
it
what I
up.
was thinking of,
Yeah.
and I love that reframe that you gave it, because it is very personal. And if somebody's telling you that it's not personal, it's just business, it's because they're only thinking about themselves. And while on some level that's okay, in order to be able to navigate the social drama better, we need to be more inclusive and think about all the parts, all the selves.
Indeed. And it's interesting you say there, when they say it's not personal, it's not personal, it's just business, they're probably more focused on themselves. That actually is the starting point, and we talk about that in You, Me, We, because when the opinions differ, when our emotions are raised, you feel the hackles going up on the back of your neck and your heartbeat's going, when there is no clear right or wrong next step, that's when we can become our worst, but we actually need to be at our best. And so your original question was, well, what can we do? And the first step in You, Me, We talk about look up, show up, step up. And the first piece connects to this whole, my hackles are rising, my heart rate's gone up, my throat has gone dry. I just know that I'm either very nervous right now or very livid. I'm just a little bit miffed in a British way. But those emotions are the first warning signal to look up and be curious about what is triggering this. And ultimately, we talk about it in the book, to answer the question, how do I want to feel in my own presence? How do I want others, the four of us, how do I want others to feel in my presence? Because if I want people to feel livid and miffed, go wild. I mean, you're heading down a path where it's not going to be pretty. But if you want people to see you as a go-to colleague, a go-to friend, somebody they can turn to, not just to celebrate the wins in life, but to turn to for advice in the down days of life, then you own how you show up first. So in answer to your question, look up. How do I want to feel? How do I feel in my own presence? How do I want others to feel in my presence? And then the rest will follow, and hopefully allow you to dilute, or at least turn the dial down on that social drama.
What's coming to mind for me is something that I often heard, like be the person that you want that you would want somebody to be for you. And so I try to practice what I preach a lot, is to like, how would I want somebody to respond, help, support, react, or show kindness to me? So many other descriptors there that we can add in there, but like, what would I want or need from somebody else? And then I try to mirror that and be that for other people. And I think that's often a missing piece. in the workplace is not thinking outside of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the way that you've brought to light that we need to look up, like, what's actually going on, what's in front of us. And we can certainly dive into that a little bit more. I want to welcome Stina Marie to the stage today. Thank you for joining us as we talk about navigating social drama. Linda, I'm going to pop over to you for a second so that I can allow Stina to get her bearings a little bit more and take some notes, as I know she's going to do. What's coming up for you as we're talking about navigating social drama?
Yeah, thank you so much, Morag. I love this conversation. I love your books. So Morag brought up empathy, and empathy, as Ashok talks about it, Bachara, it's about seeing things through the filter of the other person, how they think, how they filter things, not how you think they should filter things. And then Stina is like fabulous in the rape conversation. And so maybe she'll touch base on that. It's that when you're doing something and someone says they don't want that done, then either it's a conversation to find out why, or you just stop and you don't keep doing it. And then all of a sudden be so surprised that they're like, if you do this again, this is the consequence. And then be like, oh, poor me, right? And oh, well, it's just business. So that's where I went with it.
Something that you shared, Linda, reminded me a lot about setting boundaries too. Like, you show others the way that you want to be treated. And by setting boundaries, I'm thinking now about, the toddler that I am around every day, right? Like, she's learning. I'm taking this away from the professional setting for just a second. She's learning her boundaries of, like, that's my body. Like, I don't like when you touch me like that, or like, I don't know, stop. And she's got this language now very clearly around what she will and won't allow. And that's just for her body. She's got boundaries for other things too that she's learning to articulate. And if we translate that to a professional setting, of course, not necessarily like limited or even focusing on the body, like, there's so many ways that we can say, hey, I actually don't like when you do that. And again, that's not asking the other person to change, as I know Stina has shared that teaching before, of like, a boundary is not about us teaching somebody else to change their behavior. It's about teaching them what we will and won't allow for ourselves and what's okay. So I love that we can reframe this way in a way that touches on social drama and, like, teaching people what is okay. And if you're just like, all right, well, again, taking that back to, it's nothing personal, it's just business. Everything is very personal. And the more that people can say, here's what would work for me, here's what would work for the team, here's what, I am noticing. And then we can all have some language around, this feels really good, or as a team collectively, this feels like kind of sucky and maybe we should do something else.
I think the challenge is that we aren't always aware of, or can't necessarily articulate those boundaries in a workplace setting. And I can think about my own self as an example. So in researching You, Me, We created the Ally Mindset profile, and listeners to this show, you're invited to take that profile and contribute to our ongoing research. And you can do that, by the way, at skyeteam, SKYE team.cloud, CLOUD, / You, Me, We. And the 5 practices of an ally mindset, the am I a friend at work, starts with abundance and generosity, which I have out of the wazoo, in that you can come to me and ask for advice or guidance, and my instant reaction is, yes, how can I help? In fact, I've got 100 suggestions for you, and I perhaps haven't listened to what the problem actually is that you're trying to solve. So it can be an overplayed strength. But the downside of abundance and generosity at strength is, okay, I may have a reputation as a go-to colleague, but I was deprioritizing my own needs. I wasn't as invested in focusing on an abundance and generosity for me. So my health suffered, my fitness levels suffered because I was always too busy looking after others. So what you described there is that we need to be able to articulate what success looks like, what those boundaries are, whether it's I don't work on the weekends, the fact that Morag might choose to, and I send you an email, that's my choice. But we need to make the implicit explicit that just because I do email you, I'm not expecting you to mirror my approach and to respond at the weekend. So unless we have that conversation, unless we can start with, well, what does it mean for me? How does that align with you? And then where does the we bit come in? We're always going to feel like there is a risk of us being at loggerheads, and then the social drama can ensue.
That reminds me of Jenny's "This is where I end and you begin," and I love that. And I talk about your thought. Well, my thoughts, your thoughts, our thoughts. Go back. I might have changed my thoughts based on hearing from you, or not. It doesn't matter. And then come back at it again. So it dovetailed into that for me, Morag. That's so great.
Yeah, whether you change your thoughts or not, what you do have, though, is a better understanding of where I'm coming from and vice versa. And we can move forward in spite of our differences, or even better, we can move forward because of the differences, because of that diversity in thought and approach, which ultimately makes us better together.
Yeah, I sometimes say, like, I found my Terry, and Stina found her Foy, and that kind of wording. And Lisa Gable talks about, I found my person, and she feels that way with her husband as well. So we have our person, that person that has our back, that thinks along the lines that we do, but also goes beyond us to make us even better, if that makes any sense as well.
I was thinking about when in my previous as I was burning out in my previous career, a lot of the social drama for me was those expectations, like you said, of like, okay, if I choose to email you at midnight on a Friday, and not having that clear communication that the other person on the other end or the rest of the team needs to respond right then and there. So for me, that looked like me responding at all hours of the night and day, because my bosses would send emails or clients would send emails. And if I didn't respond to them right away, I would then get chastised for it, or criticized of why didn't you jump in faster? How come you didn't problem solve? How come you didn't save, they never said you didn't save the day, but that's how I felt. Like I needed to show up at all hours and save the day. Because I was that go-to person, but that I didn't have any boundaries, and there was no clear communication of this, I won't allow this. This is me time. This is not work time. I see your email. I can acknowledge it, but I'm not going to actually respond to it until it's time to get back to work. Because anything that was an emergency wasn't actually an emergency. People could have waited. And so I'm just recognizing now how that could have been completely transformed had somebody had open communication with me of yes, we're putting this out here because this is the best time for us to, with a clear mind, to tell you what we need next, but we don't expect you to respond. In fact, I got the opposite message, was we expect you to respond right now. And so there's so many ways, if I went back and, all right, here's what previous Shell would have needed. Here's what the rest of the team members would have needed. And it would have been the clear communication of those expectations and boundaries, and knowing where one ends and the other begins, and then what aligns for both of us or for the whole team. So I love that, because it brought me back to a place not of negativity and resentment, but here's what I would have done better. And now that I know better, I can do better. So yeah, thank you for taking me back there.
What I like about what you shared, though, is also the fact that it isn't a one and done. Often I've seen less experienced leaders who will make an assumption and say, well, Shell, welcome to my team. You've been doing this 20 years. There's your desk. You go work it out. And you'll be successful over time, but along the way, you may be stepping on toes, etc. And as we move through our careers, those boundaries and needs and expectations change, which brings me to the second practice of an ally mindset, which is connection and compassion. Because if I only know you as Shell, as the host of this podcast, then you get literally pigeonholed in your little camera spot as that's all you do. And what we don't get to understand is your backstory without connection and compassion. When we don't ask so how did you get here? What have been some of the highs and lows? We don't know, for example, if we don't ask and don't listen, that you have a toddler in the house, at which point your flexibility or desire or energy levels to work at midnight and respond to emails may either be hyper because that's the only time the toddler's asleep, or it may be down because that's the only time you get to sleep. And so resetting and recalibrating regularly is what transforms individual leadership reputations and teams from being average, where we are surviving, to one where we can thrive. And as you need me to carry the baton because things are changing in your life or your needs, I know that there's going to come a time when I'm going to have to hand the baton over to you because I'm the one that needs the compassion, the support, the difference in the moment.
Those are so juicy. Thank you. Stina, I'm coming over to you now. I know that you actively teach some of these things to your kiddos and beyond. So what's coming up for you as we're talking about navigating social drama?
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback right off the boundaries conversation because I had a few thoughts. I'm not sure if I said this last week, but I've been thinking a lot about how few of our boundaries actually need to be verbally communicated to other people, and how many times we're the first person to cross our own boundaries. And it's really not about like, I need to let everybody know that I don't work on the weekends or this is when only time I'm available. It's that that's how you choose to behave, and I have learned to let things become a problem before I address them. So instead of feeling like I have to inform everyone of everything, make sure everything is planned, like it's very like codependent people pleasing behavior to try and prevent all of the problems before they come up, rather than just say, well, this is and this is saying, I'm a freelancer, so I tend to think, okay, between say 9 to 5, like those are typically expected business hours, right? So if a client sends me a message during that time, I'm generally going to respond within the day. But I also am not very quick to respond. Sometimes it takes me a day. Sometimes it takes me 2 days. Like if you're not actively blocked into my schedule for a project, it may take me a day or two to get back to you. And those are the type of people I want to work with. I want to work with people who are planning their projects far enough ahead and hiring me with enough time in the plan that they're not looking for me to answer their message and write their whole website in the next 2 days. That's not the pace or the pressure that I want to work with. And so I just naturally have been letting things take up a little more space or time, leaving messages until, through the weekend. And then on Monday, I'll just say, hope you had a great weekend. And I'll just answer the message. And I don't have people really push back on that, but that's just the standard that I operate on. And so if it's an issue, I trust that someone will say, hey, we're going to need, more responsiveness, or we need quicker turnaround, or whatever that is. And then I can say, okay, let's talk about what that looks like. Because for me, that means more time, more energy, more attention for that client, and more availability to be able to do that. So they're going to pay me for that if that's something that they want. because my rates are set to accommodate my current boundaries as they are. And so there has to be that exchange. If I'm going to give up a little bit of something on my end, then I need to know how they're going to like meet me there, essentially.
I like what you said there, especially about that responsiveness, because I think we're raised to believe that hustle culture and instant gratification is the definition of success. And what you've pointed out there is it becomes a fool's goal, because every time you try and meet it, you're just running faster and faster.
Yeah.
And often, as a busy professional, I know when I was in a corporate life, even now, when you hit send on that email, there is at a subconscious or a conscious level a little, that's on Stina's to-do list. I don't have to think about that now till next week. And if you reply almost immediately, oh, good grief, the ball's back in my court, as I mix my metaphors. So to your point, it's making the implicit explicit again around what does responsive need mean? 24 hours, 48 hours, a week? Oh my goodness, I can meet that one. But now we're all happy.
Yeah. And I've found that I pick up on, I guess I would say like drama cues. Like I'll pick up on those things in earlier conversations with new clients, and little red flags will start to go off, where I go, oh, this person is, the way that they're framing the project or the way that they're talking about what they want, I can tell that we may not be values aligned, and there's going to be some tension down the road. Because for 3 years, I worked with someone who expected me to not just respond immediately, but respond on multiple platforms. I was in about 3 different ways of communicating with this person in different group chats, individual chats, email threads, Messenger. And it was like a second part of the job just to manage the number of ways we were communicating. And there was no central hub for project management or progress through tasks. So it was a lot to manage. And I saw how much energy it took to just be on all of the time. And I really think that affects the quality of work and quality of relationships and, quality of the team, like what you're able to achieve. Because if you have to constantly be in that communication mode, you can't go into deep creative. You can't go into a really meaningful work. You need stretches of time where you get to just focus on what your actual work is, not coordinating or project managing or scheduling. So it's all different modes of functioning for me. So if I've got a task switch into answering an email, then that takes me time to get back into, what I was doing, what my client was actually paying me to do.
So I'm curious, Stina, because this is not a habit I've managed to diligently stick with. Do you have email on and notifications pinging while you're doing your maker work, deep dive, or are you I check in the morning, I check at the end of the day, disciplined?
Yeah, so I have email. I never have had notifications on for. I only will just go manually check it, usually a couple times a day. And then I work on Upwork, which is a freelancer platform. That's where I would say 90% of my client interactions happen, which is so nice to have them all in one little bucket. And I do have those come through on my phone just because that's where I'm always like booking new work and getting new clients. But I don't have that one pop up on my watch. So like I have kind of layers of like, I know that I want to see those when I pick up my phone. I want to know, do I have some messages to get back to? Because it's only clients, it's only people that I actively work with. Where email, it's like, it could be anything. It could be, a reminder that my invoice got paid on Canva or something. I don't really need all of these things coming in. So for me, it's like information management. What's actually important? How can I kind of segment those things? And I keep, a separate personal email, work email. And I just find that I've had to, I've had to work with those at different points in time. What actually works for me? What gives me the space I need? And yeah, it's we're kind of in like the notification culture though, right? Something's always like going off. So
Stina's really key on energy and what gives us energy, what takes us away, what takes it away. And one of the things that I'm noticing about my energy is if the LinkedIn and Facebook tabs are open on my computer, I'm really getting in touch with that's too much energy for me right now or today or whatever. So if I'm out like doing a post or whatever, I'll just tap into, should I just shut these down? Oh, yeah, go ahead, shut these down, kind of idea. It's not just shit on myself. Get in touch with, yeah, it'll feel better to, shut this down or not.
Yeah, one thing that's worked for me, and I play around with it a little bit, is I've actually turned off most of the notifications for different platforms on my phone. So like if I want to use that time and energy to go respond to somebody or to go look to see if somebody responded, I'm actually going and looking. Like I'm not getting notified and then getting distracted of like, all right, I'll get back to that person's message later. So I even like my email, I never have notifications on. Instagram, Facebook, like Messenger notifications are off. Even LinkedIn is turned off. So I am being really intentional about when I go and look for certain notifications. And that allows me some focus time and downtime to get back to other people. So I might not see it right away because I'm not actively looking. And that helps me keep my own boundary of like, I'm not going to respond right away. And you shouldn't expect me to, but I don't have to communicate that. I'm just doing it. Now, where I know I can be better about that is like how often and how much I'm going to each app to check the notifications and to see what's come in. But I do actively have them turned off so that it provides a little bit more of intentionality behind it. And yeah, to each their own, right? Like you can play around with what works for you the same way that you can teach other people your boundaries by you actively doing them and participating in them.
Right. And you can't teach other people your boundaries if you're not in touch with them, because we do have our boundaries. We're just not in touch with ourselves and what we're choosing. And that's your story with the loving yourself isn't selfish, right? You can go through that aha first, and then you start taking care of yourself and start tapping into, like, for lack of better words, what your needs are and what feels good, how much energy you have. And that's where you start to see all your boundaries for you personally. Do you agree with that, Shell? That makes sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if I don't prioritize myself first, then that's where like I start to feel flustered, and then I overplan to mitigate possible outcomes, and then there's expectations there of why people aren't like meeting me halfway or anywhere at all. And so when I can check in with myself first and show myself the love and give myself what I need, and then anything else is after that is a bonus. And it's in this instance, like selfishness is okay because without that, I know that I can't serve well. So this level of selfishness is necessary because otherwise I'm going to forget. And I do still have that conditioning that I'm breaking through of like showing up and serving others first and filling my cup later. And so the more that I can love on myself, I think those are Jenny's words, loving on ourselves, right? The more that I can show up and serve better and prioritize what needs to be prioritized for myself and for others, if that makes sense.
It does. And when you tap into your heart, you stay out of your head. And that's where we really get into trouble.
I think you kind of started to say this, Linda, or we're saying like we discover our boundary. Like we all have boundaries, and then we like discover them. And I think that sometimes we can think of boundaries as like, I set my boundaries rather than like, oh, I'm discovering I have a boundary here. And that's, I think that when you get like into, loving yourself, creating healthier relationships and communication, then when things come up that don't feel great and you're like, like something's a little off here, you notice it and it's like, ooh, I have a boundary here I didn't know about. I hadn't discovered that one yet. And that's when you get to get clear on like where that boundary is so that you can honor it.
I like when you say discover though, I find that they're more foisted upon me. It's not necessarily a positive discovery. It's I've just reached my limit. It's a less fun way of discovering boundaries. Or if you go home at the end of the day or you walk out of the bedroom office and it's like, you won't believe what happened at work today. There again is a sign that a boundary or a button has been pushed. And the question is, to your point, Stina, did you know you were close to it, or has this come as a surprise to you too? And either way, you now have a choice. What are you going to do next time you get close to that boundary?
So good.
It's interesting too. How many you said like, oh, you wouldn't believe what kind of day I had, like when you get home. And how many days in a row do we do that? How often do we do that? Where it's a lot of times it's the same type of boundary that's been crossed and we just haven't even acknowledged it yet. Or like the same type of situation or the same type of drama, or this person like got in my face, or this, here is happening and I didn't like that and we butted heads. And it's the same drama cycle over and over again until we can actually sit with it and acknowledge it, like, oh yeah, I can do something about this and change it. And that reminds me, I quote this a lot to my friends too now, but like John Chaplier's words of like, accept it, change it, or leave it. Like if it's a problem, if it's something that you can't live with, like you get to change it or leave it. Like if you're done accepting it and that's no longer an option, we can do something about it, and we get to do something about it. And I love that. Like, and I also love, I'm going to tie this all together now. I also love how we can take the teachings and the conversations that we've had with previous guests and our own work and intertwine all of the beautiful things that we've done, because they all relate. And if we think about navigating social drama, Jenny's words, Dorrit's words, Stina's words, Linda's words, Morag's words, John's words, like any of our guests, like we've all done it. We've all been doing it. We're all like helping others navigate these things better so that we can live better, work better, be more successful, and not just for ourselves, but for collectively. And so I think these are beautiful conversations. I hope you guys agree, because you keep coming back. Morag, before we wrap up for today, I want to thank you again for being here. We've loved having this conversation with you. I want to give you the opportunity to let people know where they can find you, connect with you, all the good things.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, the Ally Mindset profile is available for all at SkyeTeam, SKYE, team.cloud/YouMeWe. And you'll get a personalized report that shows your strengths and opportunities to leverage around the 5 practices of an ally mindset. And you can learn more from You, Me, We, why we all need a friend at work, and how to show up as one. And then for me, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I am the one with the tab open most of the day, Linda. It is me that responds, not a bot. But if you reach out to me, abundance and generosity will kick in. And if I can answer a question, point you to the right resource that might be useful, then reach out. And then finally, you can learn more about the work that my team and I do here at SkyeTeam, where we support leaders around the world in being the best version of themselves in order to be better together with the people who work with and for them.
You heard it here, folks. If you want to learn more about the amazing work that Morag's been doing, you can go to her website. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. You can check out what her Sky team has been up to. And please don't forget to connect with us as well. Linda, Stina, myself, Jenny, and Dorrit, even though they are not here with us today physically, they're here with us always. In the space that we hold. If you would like to book a one-to-one conversation of your own, again, here's the link where you can do that. And if you want to catch up on previous conversations or be reminded when new ones are coming out, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel seen on the screen here. We look forward to having more high vibe conversations with you. And until then, we'll say bye for now.